Hey everyone, it's Ivan with KitBadger.com, out here for another gear review, and today talking about this guy right here and a set of these. The Chase Tactical LVPC and their 4S17 hard plates. We'll go ahead and start with the what? LVPC, low vis plate carrier by Chase Tactical, as well as their level 4 standalone plates they make. Well, they make a bunch of different ones. This model in particular, NIJ certified, and probably a little less expensive, but you pay for it one way or the other, so definitely more heavy. I will now show you how these kind of work together though. We'll go ahead and start with these plates here. As I mentioned, this is the 4S17. They are level 4 standalone NIJ certified. These are single curve, so they just have that one curve there, and they come in a number of different sizes. This right here is their 10 by 12, and they offer 3 different cuts. One being a full size, which basically about 12 inches by 10 inches, giant rectangle. This right here is their shooter's cut. As you can see, it's cut in at the top and then a little bit at the bottom as well. And they also have a swimmer's cut, which even more drastic, cut down like that. And as I said, this is actually NIJ certified. And with that, if you go on their site, it'll give you a listing of not only the guns fired at it, but also the actual ammo, as well as muzzle velocity, if that's important to you. And yeah, 10-year manufacturer warranty from date of manufacture. These are not the lightest. As I mentioned, about 1 inch thick, a little under 7.2 pounds per plate. And on top of that, 1000D Cordura, basically covering this thing, and inside they're actually ceramic with some sort of composite backer. But these happen to fit perfectly in their plate carrier. Back here, this is the rear plate bag, and I already have it open. There's basically this big Velcro flap, and there's inside corresponding male Velcro in there. What this allows is you to basically size your plate inside this pocket so you don't have a bunch of slop. And we do that by sliding it in, fold this piece down about as tight as we can get it, and then press that Velcro up against it. And so it's now snug up against this edge and snug there. We don't have any vertical movement with our plate inside this plate bag. When it comes to sizing, we have options. On the one hand, on the back here is the cummerbund. You have this Velcro flap, actually part of this rear plate bag, and inside you have male, female Velcro, and then it allows you to basically put the cummerbund back here, kind of wherever you want, as far as in closer, if you need this tighter, or further out, if you need it wider. And in addition to that adjustment, we also have up here, you can adjust these. These are the shoulder straps, and they basically just go over, again, male, female Velcro, lots of adjustment depending on where you want that to ride. And then here on the front, we have our attachment for our cummerbund. So both sides of the cummerbund have a male, female Velcro. So no matter which one goes down, the other one can overlap if need be. And then on both sides of it, we have basically double layer of mil-spec elastic, and we have 2 different cells on here. Their more recent versions actually have 3 different cells, but these are fit perfectly for AR mags. You can shove them down in there, or anything kind of similar size, whether it's a radio, tourniquet, combat gauze, some sort of med supplies, pretty much whatever you want to put in there. And then, as I mentioned, this just comes back around, throw it on, and you're good to go. And then both on the front as well as the rear, large Velcro fields for attaching patches or whatever else you want to put on there. So how does it all work? Well, personally, I'll usually open both sides, and if you have a hood, for whatever reason, maybe it's snowing out, you'll want to put that hood on before, otherwise it'll get stuck behind you under the blade carrier. But drop it down, then one piece, come over, other piece, come over. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. As the name implies, LVPC, low vis plate carrier, pretty low profile. You don't have basically extra buckles, anything like that hanging out, to include even basically a provision even for some sort of magazines to be carried up front. So if you throw this under a cover shirt, something like that, ultimately it's going to print a lot less. But you still have these cells on the side if you do need to carry magazines, radio, anything like that. Pretty handy all in all. A quick note on a couple fronts with respect to sizing. First, with respect to the actual plate carrier itself, comes in 2 different sizes, and it's in reference to the plate bag. So you have regular and extra large. Your regular plate bag, which is what this is, it's sized to fit 10 by 12 plates. Extra large, fitting, I believe, 11 to 14 or 11 by 14 inch plates. For all intents and purposes, you're probably just going to want the regular, because most plates are cut 10 by 12 inches. Not in reference to how big you are. So if you are really big, either because you're a giant of a man or you're just fat, this has tons of adjustment. Basically, as I showed you, you can move that cummerbund out, so it gives you more room on the cummerbund, and then where it mates up in front, you can either overlap it or just bring it to the sides, depending on how much space you need. I like to have it to where largely it'll kind of overlap a tiny bit. So if I have layers on, like jacket, something like that, I have room to put it over and the Velcro is still mating up, still nice and secure. So I said sizing on 2 fronts. The other one, if you're unfamiliar, haven't really worn plate carriers, what we're trying to do is protect our vitals. Made a whole video about it, big picture, takeaways. You want it ideally to where the top of your front plate, you can essentially move your chin down and touch it, and then roughly the same kind of on your rear plate as far as height-wise, just because all that important stuff is up high. If you have this thing sagging way down low, 1, it's probably uncomfortable, and 2, it's not protecting your vitals. So you want the plates nice and high. Having said all that, what has been my experience with it? How have I used it? Well, definitely taken out some just like range trips, doing some training, and also worn it, doing some different workouts, kind of rope climbs, things like that. At the end of the day, it is a weighted vest, though it is ballistic, and it weighs about 15 pounds, which brings me to kind of the bulk of how I've used this thing. I actually wore this at the, I guess 2019 Tactical Games, I think it was, down in North Carolina, and yeah, basically 2 days of events. Did really good for me, and the color happened to match my outfit. I was basically running retro. I had a Brownells M16 E1 retro clone, and I was shooting a single stack 1911. And basically running this. The way the rules are set up, you need a 15-pound plate carrier, which, perfect, worked out really well. And it's one of those where, yes, you can absolutely get lighter ballistic plates to include from Chase Tactical, but usually that's where the cost is. So once you start adding curves, again, these are single curve. If you have like multi-curve, and then on top of that, lightweight, on top of that, multi-curve, lightweight, standalone level 4, starts to get really expensive. And since I was actually looking for plates and a plate carrier for what I was doing, and because of the rules, it needed to weigh 15 pounds, turnkey, perfect solution. And while through that, I wasn't usually using these cells on the side for magazines because I was running a pretty sweet bandolier, I do appreciate having those cells over there. 2 different fronts. One, with respect to like the competition side. If you were going to go tactical game, something like that, where you need a 15-pound plate carrier, being able to stuff magazines along those sides, that's pretty huge. So you don't have a belt with like a million magazines on it, because may have changed, but because of course design, you usually end up with like 5 pistol and or rifle magazines on you. So being able to get some of that stuff off your waistline, really nice. I will say in use, some things I do appreciate about it is, again, it's low pro. You don't have a bunch of padding up on your shoulders. I didn't really find it to be an issue with any of the running or the obstacle courses, anything like that. And there's enough space up here, especially with the shooter cut plates, to where you could usually get pretty good stock weld as far as bringing the stock in being able to make those shots. And the other thing that I really love and look for in pretty much any plate carrier, and this checks the box, is that elastic. This actually has elastic cummerbund, which, big picture, gives it some movement. So once you're running, exerting yourself, starting to breathe hard, you can basically, the plate carrier moves with you some, rather than just being constricted because it's rigid, like just webbing or something along those lines. So that is definitely huge. And being able to, again, depending on what you're doing, if you're in some like long running evolution, moving further than you would like, and you don't need it as tight as it is, you can very easily just pull the Velcro loose, move it back, give yourself a little more space if you're having trouble breathing because you're breathing really hard. Or again, you can tighten that thing up depending on kind of environment and what you're doing. Overall, really solid. With respect to materials on the plate carrier itself, it's made out of a 500D mil-spec Cordura, and the Cordura, as well as that mil-spec elastic, both have an IR treatment. What does that mean? Basically, under the IR spectrum, think night vision, certain materials can appear really shiny or almost kind of glow, and this is treated so that you reduce that significantly, which, depending on what your paradigm is, might be pretty important. As far as color-wise, these come in black, coyote, this, which is the Ranger green. And then they also have multicam and multicam black. Price-wise for your plate carrier, you're looking at, I think, about $135, which is the front, rear plate bags, and then the cummerbund. And again, put all that together, adjust it to fit you. Plates for those single curve level 4 standalone, about $220 a plate. So all in, about $440 for that set. Is all that stuff expensive? Like north of $500 for the full setup? Yeah, it is kind of, especially if all you want is a weight vest. But if you're looking for something that is pretty well designed, well made, and ballistic protection, yeah, probably worthwhile. Especially if you end up getting shot and this thing saves your life. You're like, that was probably money well spent. And depending if you want to go and pick this stuff up through Chase Tactical, first time you end up making a purchase, you get 15% off, which is pretty significant if, again, spend north of $500. But as always, thanks for joining us at kitbadge.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.